All right, so today we're diving into the world of computer chips, specifically Intel. You've been curious about how this tech giant went from basically inventing the game to now it seems like they're always playing catch up. I've got to admit, digging into these articles, I was surprised by some of what I found.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that. What's fascinating about Intel's story is it's a classic example of the innovator's dilemma. That idea that if you focus all your energy on what's profitable today, you might miss what's coming tomorrow. And that's exactly what happened to Intel.
Yeah, they were so busy ruling the PC world with their chips that they didn't really see the mobile revolution coming.
Yeah.
And we're not even just talking about phones here. Chips are in everything now cars, smart appliances, you name it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is where Intel's laser focus on their x86 architecture, which was groundbreaking at the time, ended up working against them.
Okay, so explain this x86 thing to me like I'm 5. What is it exactly?
Imagine x86 as the language that most computers use to understand and execute commands. Intel basically created the most popular dialect of this language, and for a long time, it was the gold standard. But like any language, it has its quirks. In this case, it was that it was a bit power hungry, which wasn't a big deal for desktop computers plugged into a wall, but it was a deal breaker for mobile devices running on battery power.
Ah, that makes sense. So while Intel was laser focused on making their powerful chips even more powerful, another company, ARM, came in with a completely different approach. They weren't even making chips themselves, right? They were designing them and then basically letting anyone use their designs.
Exactly. Yeah. They decided to license out their chip designs, and these designs just happen to be incredibly energy efficient. Think about how many different types of smartphones and tablets are out there. A huge chunk of them are powered by ARM-based chips.
So it's like ARM was offering a subscription service for chip designs and everyone jumped on board. That's pretty smart.
Yeah, it was a game changer. This approach fueled huge EE adoption because it offered a balance of performance and energy efficiency that Intel just couldn't match at the time. Meanwhile, Intel was stuck trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, pushing their power-hungry x86 chips into devices that weren't designed for them.
And that brings us to another area where Intel kind of missed the boat, right? GPUs. I used to think those were just for making my video games look awesome, but then I was reading that they've become essential for way more than just gaming.
It's pretty amazing, right? What's fascinating about GPUs is their parallel processing power. Imagine a bunch of mini brains working together on a single task. That's what makes them so well suited for AI and machine learning, which require massive amounts of data crunching.
So while Intel was laser focused on their CPUs, companies like Nvidia and AMD saw the potential of GPUs for AI and jumped on that opportunity.
Precisely. NVIDIA, for instance, they developed this platform called CUDS. And essentially, CUD gave developers all the tools they needed to harness the power of GPUs for tasks that they were never really designed for. That was a game changer. It opened up this whole new world of possibilities beyond just graphics, and now NVIDIA is a major player in the AI hardware market.
And nice, so they were basically like, hey, these GPUs can do so much more than render explosions in video games, let's put in the work.
Exactly. And AMD also made some really smart moves, like they acquired ATI Technologies, which really boosted their own GPU game. This allowed them to offer these integrated CPU and GPU solutions, combining the best of both worlds.
So far, it sounds like Intel missed the boat not once, but twice. First with the shift to mobile, then with the GPU revolution. What happened next? Did they manage to turn things around?
Well, while Intel was busy playing catch-up, another tech giant was making a pretty bold move. Remember how we talked about ARM licensing out their chip design?
Yeah, like a subscription service for cutting-edge tech.
Right, so Apple was actually a major ARM customer, using their designs in iPhones and iPads for years. But then, they decided to shake things up.
Wait, Apple started making their own W and chips. I never really thought about that, but it makes sense.
Exactly. They created their own chip division and started developing these A-series chips specifically for their mobile devices. And let me tell you, these chips were revolutionary. They were both powerful and energy efficient, a combination that was really hard to come by back then.
You know, now that you mention it, my iPhone battery does seem to last forever compared to my old phone, and I'm constantly using it.
There you go. That's a perfect example of Apple's strategy in action. They have this vertical integration, meaning they control both the hardware and the software, which allows them to squeeze every ounce of performance and efficiency out of their devices. It's a huge competitive edge. And honestly, a lot of companies are now trying to replicate what Apple is doing.
It's like they're playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Okay, so we've got Intel playing catch-up, ARM changing the game with licensing, and Apple becoming a chip powerhouse in their own right. What about gaming consoles? Were they just watching from the sidelines?
Not at all. The gaming console market has its own fascinating story of adaptation. See, Xbox and PlayStation, they used to rely on off-the-shelf chips from companies like Intel and IBM. It was all about who had the most gigahertz back then.
Yeah, I remember those days. The console wars were basically decided by which one had the most powerful processor. What changed?
Well, both Microsoft and Sony realized that they could achieve much better results if they used custom-designed chips. Instead of trying to make a one-size-fits-all chip work, they opted for a more tailored approach. So they turned to, drumroll please,
AMD. Those guys are on a roll.
they are indeed. Both Xbox and PlayStation now use custom AMD chips that are specifically designed for gaming performance. This allows them to focus on things like stunning graphics, smooth gameplay, and immersive audio all without breaking the bank or turning your console into a space heater.
So the console wars have become a showcase for AMD's chip-making prowess. It seems like everyone is turning to them for these specialized chips.
It highlights a really crucial point about the chip landscape today. Specialization is key. Companies that can tailor their chips to specific applications have a real advantage. But there's one more player we need to talk about, a company that's been quietly pulling the strings behind the scenes for quite some time now.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Who are these mysterious puppet masters of the chip world?
Have you ever heard of a little company called TSMC?
TSMC. Rings a bell, but I couldn't tell you what they do.
That's understandable. TSMC stands for Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, and they are the world's largest dedicated semiconductor foundry.
A foundry, so like where they melt metal and pour it into molds?
Not quite. The way